Sumeru will be coming out pretty soon, and I'm sure everyone wants to know how already existing characters are gonna be with the new elements. So today I'll be talking about Fischl, how I think she will be with Dendro, and how to build her best in a Dendro Reactions team. Fischl is very good for elemental reactions overall, mainly because of her skill, where she summons Oz, who basically shoots opponents out of his beak. He fires a shot about every second, so if he's on the field, Fischl can make a lot of elemental reactions so long as you provide other elements. Now, if you've seen the leaks or the livestream, or maybe even my video on elemental reactions, you might know that there are 3 elemental reactions with Dendro and Electro. Those reactions are called Catalyze, Aggravate, and Hyper Bloom. Catalyze and Aggravate are kind of related. When you create Catalyze and then add even more Electro, which I'm sure Oz would do, you trigger Aggravate, which will buff the Electro damage of the attack that triggers the reaction. The same is the case if you add more Dendro to Catalyze, but then obviously the Dendro damage of that attack gets a damage increase. So basically, if you use Fischl in a team with Dendro characters, you'll create Catalyze, then create Aggravate, and basically buff at least half of the attacks Oz will do. And on top of that, you will almost definitely also trigger some spread reactions, which buffs the Dendro character's damage as well. This bonus damage is set to scale off of Elemental Mastery, which will already be important enough just for the elemental reactions themselves. For Hyper Bloom, you're gonna have to bring Hydro into the equation, because for that you have to create the elemental reaction Bloom, which is created with Hydro and Electro. When you have created a Dendro core like that, you can apply Electro and you will have created Hyper Bloom. I think for this, Ayato and Fischl can be a very good pair to create that reaction, since Ayato is already in one of Fischl's best teams, and I also think Xingqiu will work well. Oh, maybe a team with Fischl, Yoimiya, Xingqiu, and then a Dendro character. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, there are so many characters that could be good here, but I'm gonna talk about that more later on. Going back to Hyper Bloom, when you create that, it will shoot out homing Dendro arrows that deal Dendro damage, which I think creates another good opportunity for some Catalyze and Aggravate. You might already understand why Fischl will be amazing in the Dendro team with this. With that said, I think in a team like this, it would probably be good to build Fischl a little bit differently. I think Elemental Mastery might be a bit more important here because of how often you're gonna create reaction, and the Aggravate buff that scales off of Elemental Mastery. It is said that Thundering Fury and other sets will be updated to support their new elemental reactions, so if that is the case and you already have a good set of that, you could just keep using that. Although there is a possibility that one of the new sets that is coming in 3.0 is better. This set gives 80 elemental mastery if you have the 2-piece set, and the 4-piece set will give the character equipping this a buff based on the elemental type of the other party members. This activates within 8 seconds of triggering an elemental reaction. The buff will give a 14% attack bonus for each party member that has the same element as the character using this set, and will give another 50 elemental mastery for every character with a different element. This effect can be triggered every 8 seconds, so you could just always be buffed by this set if you do enough elemental reactions. This effect can also be triggered when the character is not on the field, which is very good for our off-field damage dealing Fischl. I'll just give a quick example for this. If you have 2 Dendro characters and 2 Electro characters for a Catalyze team, and we're using this set on Fischl, Fischl would get a 14% attack boost because there is one other character in the team with the same element. It doesn't really matter if you have 2 Dendro characters or a Dendro and a Hydro character or a Dendro and a Pyro character, because they're all not the same element, and Fischl will thus always get 100 elemental mastery. So basically with this set you're almost always guaranteed to get at least 50 elemental mastery. I think it will be best to balance this out and indeed get 100 elemental mastery and a 14% attack boost. And you can also use the set on a Dendro character, which could be good if you have 2 Electro and 2 Dendro characters, and then 2 of your characters get the buff of that set. I mean, I am definitely going to experiment with this because this seems kind of interesting, but when you have this set, I would say that elemental mastery is not important enough for a main stat on an artifact, but if you use Thundering Fury and Gladiators, which is one of Fischl's best sets, you might maybe want to have an elemental mastery stance, although I would suggest that you first look at the amount of elemental mastery you already have with an attack stance, and then decide for yourself to balance it out. We still don't know how much the reactions do and how much elemental mastery increases, but if you look at the set and the reactions, I would say that elemental mastery will become more important for Dendro reactions, especially with Electro and especially with Catalyze. For weapons, I think in this kind of team with Fischl, the best weapon would be Elegy for the End. It gives 60 elemental mastery and gives a sigil every 2 seconds when an elemental skill or burst does damage to an opponent, even off-field, which, as we already know, know is important for off-field damage dealing Fischl. When you have 4 of those sigils, they will be consumed and all characters of your team will gain 100 elemental mastery and 20% attack bonus. I mean, imagine using this together with that new set. That's already a 200 elemental mastery, maybe 150. So like, yeah, this just seems very good to me. Anyway, when you got this buff, you can't gain any sigils for the coming 20 seconds, but I think this is kind of perfect regardless. The energy recharge that the weapon gives can also be good for Fischl's burst when Oz is on cooldown, which will also create more reactions. Elegy for the End is a weapon you have to wish for on the weapon banner. The last time it was on a banner was in 2.6, so if you don't have that, you might have to wait a bit until it comes back. In that case, there aren't many other weapons that increase elemental mastery, and definitely not as good as this one, but in terms of 5 stars, Aqua Simulacra is also a good choice for increasing Fischl skill damage. It gives 16% HP, I mean, why not? And it automatically increases the damage by 20% even if the character is not on field, which, as we definitely know by now, is important for Fischl. This weapon is just like Elegy for the End, a weapon you can only get off of the weapon banner, and this one was released together with Yelan in version 2.7. Skyward Harp can also be good for the crit rate and damage, and you can get this one from the normal banner. For 4-star options, there is the Stringless, which increases skill and burst damage by 24% on Refinement 1, and gives elemental mastery from the second stat. You can also only get this weapon from wishing, just like all the other ones, but if you play this game for a long time already, there is a chance you have the Windbloom Ode, which also seems like a good weapon in this team. It gives elemental mastery as a second stat and increases your attack by 16% when you cast your skill. I mean, there aren't many free-to-play options here, you might notice. Well, we have one more recent weapon that was given away in an event called Fading Twilight, and this might also be okay. It gives energy recharge and gives you a certain amount of damage bonus depending on what state you are in. This changes every time an attack hits an opponent and can happen once every 7 seconds. This can also still be triggered when the character is not on the field. And of course, Sacrificial Bow might also be good if you have that one leveled up. For the weapons and artifacts, I think it's important to balance out where you get the elemental mastery and where the damage bonus from. If you farmed a new set, a weapon that gives elemental mastery is probably a bit less important, and if you have the new set and the Stringless, for example, you might want to go for something else on your sands than elemental mastery. And if you're using a set that buffs the damage like Thundering Fury, it could be good to use elemental mastery on your sands. I hope you kind of understand what I mean here. Now with that said, I might also make a video talking about the new weapons in 3.0, where I talk about for who and in what teams those could be good when they come out. And it's definitely possible one of those is good for Fischl as well, so let me know if you're interested in that. Now I think a lot of characters can be good with the new elemental reactions, but I think Fischl is one of the best. Electra now has 3 more elemental reaction, and Fischl is one of the best characters for elemental reactions overall. Above that, one of the best elemental mastery weapons is almost the best on Fischl, so it seems almost perfect. If elemental mastery is actually as important as I expect it to be, which of course I can't actually know now since it's not even out yet, I think maybe Electro and Pyro characters will be good for a lot of new teams, and maybe Hutawa gets even stronger. Who knows? Characters that apply a lot of Hydro will also get better for the Bloom reaction, but I would say that a team with Hydro and Dendro would be much better with another Electro or Pyro character like Fischl. When Sumeru finally comes out, I might make another video where I actually put in practice what I've talked about today and correct things that I said that might have been wrong. In that video, I can also look what amount of elemental mastery would be good for Fischl in this kind of team, so if you're curious about that, maybe you could subscribe so that you know when I upload that video. I also want to clarify that everything I said here is just what I think and expect based on my thoughts and information that I've seen on the internet. There will probably be something in here that I was not right about, so keep that in mind please. With that said, I really hope you enjoyed the video and that I could help you in some way. If there is anything you'd like to tell me in the comments, definitely feel free to do so, and I hope I see you in the next one.